Before we start with the parotid gland, we have to know about the parotid region. Parotid region is a facial lined space. So facial lined space which forms the mold or bed for the parotid gland. You see the boundaries of the parotid region in front, posterior border of the ramus of the mandible. So this is the mandible and this is the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible. Behind, mastoid process and sternomastoid muscle. So this is the mastoid process and sternomastoid muscle. Above, external acoustic meatus. So this is the external acoustic meatus. Below, posterior belly of digastric muscle which take origin from the mastoid process. So this is the posterior belly of digastric. Medially, styloid process and styloid group of muscles. So if you just place the parotid gland over this region, then we can understand the relations of the presenting parts. So when we see the relations of the presenting parts, we will see again this parotid region. Now we will start with the parotid gland. It is the largest of the three paired salivary glands and its shape is like this, inverted pyramid shape, so that base is above and apex is below, and it is having approximately 25 grams in weight. As if this gland is over the parotid mold, some parts of the gland extend beyond the mold and form various processes of the gland. So that is the reason for the various processes of the gland. Now we will start with the coverings of the parotid gland. So coverings, it will have the inner true capsule and outer false capsule. So this true capsule in any gland, not only in parotid gland, will be formed by the fibrous stroma of the gland. So this false capsule is otherwise called parotid sheath. So false capsule is the parotid sheath formed by the investing layer of deep cervical fascia. Now we will see that in the diagram. So if this is the investing layer of deep cervical fascia, so this splits into two layers or two lamella. The superficial lamella of the sheath is strong and passes over the masseter, blends with the epimysium of the masseter, then it is attached to the lower border of the zygomatic arch. So this is the zygomatic arch. So this fascia is thick so that it will be called as parotidomasseteric fascia. If you see the deep lamella is thin compared to the anti-superficial lamella and it is attached to the tympanic plate and to the styloid process. The part which is attached to the styloid process is somewhat thickened, so that will be called as the stylomandibular ligament. So this is the false capsule or parotid sheath. So this superficial lamella is tightly adherent to the parotid. So only parotid swellings are painful because the swellings are not able to extend because of this parotidomasseteric fascia. So we have to draw this parotid gland inside this false capsule like this. So this is the parotid gland. So we have now understood the coverings of the parotid gland. Now we will start with the presenting parts of the parotid gland. So presenting parts of the parotid gland, as it is the inverted pyramid shape, so it has the base above, apex below, and then superficial surface. So what is this surface we are seeing in superficial is the superficial surface. To understand this medial surface, the superficial surface is otherwise called lateral surface. So parotid is having one lateral surface and two medial surface. So one medial surface you can understand if it is over the mastoid process. So this part which is related to the mastoid process will be the anteromedial surface. The part which is related to the mastoid process and styloid process will be the posteromedial surface. So this is the anteromedial surface and this is the posteromedial surface. So you have to think this two surfaces are over this parotid parotid region boundaries. So when you just think superficial surface, lateral surface, and the other deeper surface is over this boundaries of the parotid region. That's the way we have to understand this two surfaces, two medial surfaces. Three borders are there. So this is the anterior border. So anterior border separates the superficial from the anteromedial surface. So you have to think the anteromedial surface is deeper to this. Then posterior border separates the superficial surface from the posteromedial surface. Then the border between the anteromedial and posteromedial surface will be called as the medial border. So these are the three borders, three surfaces, base, or it can be called as upper surface. So these are the presenting parts of the parotid gland. Before we see the relations of this parotid gland, we will see the structures passing through the parotid gland so that we will understand the relations of the base, apex, and also the anterior border easily. So the structures within the gland from outside inwards, first outside, that is superficial to deep, three structures are present: facial nerve and its branches, two is the retromandibular vein, and three is the external carotid artery and its terminal branches. First we will see the facial nerve and its branches. The facial nerve emerges from the stylomastoid foramen. So it emerges from, so if you think this is the mastoid process, styloid process. So this is the stylomastoid foramen. So the facial nerve emerges from this stylomastoid foramen. Facial nerve trunk. This is the facial nerve trunk emerges from the stylomastoid foramen. About 2.5 centimeter deep to the middle of the anterior border of the mastoid process, passes downwards and forwards for about 1 centimeter before it pierces the posteromedial surface of the parotid gland. So it pierces the posteromedial surface of the parotid gland, then enters the parotid gland. Within the gland, the nerve runs for another 1 centimeter. So another 1 centimeter. Then it divides into two trunks, temporofacial and cervicofacial trunk. So there are two trunks, temporofacial and cervicofacial. This is temporofacial and this is cervicofacial trunk. The temporofacial turns abruptly upward and divides into temporal branch and the zygomatic branch. The cervicofacial passes downward and forward and divides into buccal. So this is the cervicofacial. So from this buccal, upper buccal and lower buccal, then the marginal mandibular, and through the apex one branch is the cervical branch. So these are the five branches, five terminal branches radiate like the goose feet through the anterior border of the gland, supply the facial muscles, hence called as pes ansorinus. So we will label the branches. So this is the temporal branch, zygomatic, upper buccal, lower buccal, marginal mandibular, and cervical. So this is the one structure we have seen, the facial nerve and its branches inside the parotid gland. As if this gland is divided into superficial and deep lobes by the branches of the facial nerve. The lobes are connected by the narrow isthmus of the gland. So the branches of the nerve lies in the middle layer as a middle layer of a parotid sandwich. So this subdivision should help the surgeon to remove a parotid tumor, leaving the nerve intact. So this is another clinical important point. When we have to remove the parotid gland for some reasons, we have to be careful of the structures inside the parotid gland. Now we will see the another structure inside the parotid gland, that is the retromandibular vein. Retromandibular vein is inside the parotid gland. It occupies the intermediate zone and it is formed by the union of superficial temporal and maxillary. So superficial temporal vein will pass here through the base. So this is the superficial temporal vein. Superficial temporal vein and maxillary vein will join to form the inside the parotid gland to form the retromandibular vein. Then it ends below by dividing into anterior and posterior divisions. Both divisions, so if this is the retromandibular vein, deep to the facial nerve, so that you have to draw with a dotted line. For understanding, I have drawn with the bold lines. You have to draw with the dotted lines beneath the facial nerve. Then it divides into anterior and posterior divisions of the retromandibular vein, which pass through the apex of the parotid gland. So this completes the second structure inside the parotid gland. Now we will see the third structure, external carotid artery. External carotid artery occupies the deep zone. As it ascends, it divides into terminal branches, superficial temporal and maxillary. So if this is the external carotid artery inside the parotid gland, so this is the external carotid artery inside the parotid gland. It divides into terminal branches. One terminal branch is this superficial temporal artery, again which pass through the base of the parotid gland. So this is the superficial temporal artery. Another artery, large artery, is the maxillary artery. So these two are the terminal branches of the external carotid artery. Transverse facial artery sometimes arises from the superficial temporal artery, emerges through the anterior border of the parotid gland. So sometimes another artery will come through this anterior border of the parotid gland, that is the transverse facial artery. So after drawing all the structures inside the parotid gland, now you can easily tell the structures passing through the base, apex and anterior border clearly. Now first we will start with the apex. Apex is this, it is directed below, overlaps the posterior belly of digastric muscle and appears in the carotid triangle. So you have to understand this apex is extending up to the carotid triangle. Structures passing through the apex are the cervical branch of the facial nerve. So this is the one structure passing through the cervical branch of the facial nerve. Anterior division of the retromandibular vein and posterior division of retromandibular vein, which will form the external jugular vein. Posterior division will join with the posterior auricular vein to form the external jugular vein. So that is the structures in the passing through the apex of the parotid gland. Now base. Base is the concave, as if it is concave, and it is related to what is the upper boundary of the parotid region? External acoustic meatus. So it is related to external acoustic meatus. Structures passing through the base or upper surface are the temporal branch of the facial nerve and the superficial temporal vessels, artery and vein. So these are the artery and vein, and auriculotemporal nerve also, which carries the postganglionic sympathetic fibers. That will also be related to the base. Now superficial surface. Superficial surface is related to, this is the superficial surface in this diagram. So this is related to this fascia, parotidomesenteric fascia. So it is tightly adherent. In this superficial fascia contains the parotid group of lymph nodes are present and branches of great auricular nerve. So that is the nerve which carries the parotid swelling pain of the parotid gland swelling. That is the one branch of the cervical nerve, plexus, which supplies the skin over the angle of the mandible. So that nerve will also be related here, so that it will be carrying the pain of the parotid gland swelling. So that nerve is the great auricular nerve. So that is the relation of the superficial surface. Now we will see the anteromedial surface. So anteromedial surface, you have to think as if this is over this ramus of the mandible. So if this is over the ramus of the mandible, this surface, what will be the muscles attached to the ramus of the mandible? Masseter and medial pterygoid muscle. So these three are the relations of the anteromedial surface. So that is the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible with two muscles. One is this masseter attached to the superficial, and deeper it will be attached, the muscle which is attached is the medial pterygoid muscle. So that is the anteromedial surface. Posteromedial surface is extensive and comes in contact with all this mastoid process, styloid process, and deep to the styloid process also. So these are the posteromedial surface relations. So I have explained the surfaces, base and apex. Superficial surface, this diagram related to the parotid group of lymph nodes and to the great auricular nerve. This is the anteromedial surface related to the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible and two muscles attached to the ramus. And this is the posteromedial surface related to the mastoid process and styloid process and deep to the styloid process. So now we will see the borders of the parotid gland. Borders of the parotid gland, anterior border is thin and rests on the masseter muscle. So this is the anterior border. So this border is the anterior border, rests on the masseter muscle. It has following structures radiating: zygomatic branch of the facial nerve, transverse facial artery, upper buccal branch of the facial nerve, accessory parotid gland if it is present, otherwise parotid duct, lower buccal branch of the facial nerve, and marginal mandibular branch of the facial nerve. So these are the structures which come through the anterior border of the parotid gland. Posterior border, this is the posterior border which lies on the sternomastoid muscle. So what are the structures passing through this, beneath this border are the posterior auricular nerve and vessels. Medial border, it separates the anteromedial surface and the posteromedial surface, and it will be sometimes called as the pharyngeal border because it is related to the wall of the pharynx. So this border is also called as pharyngeal border as it is related to the posterior wall of the pharynx. It is in contact with the wall of the pharynx. So this completes the presenting parts of the gland. We have seen in the detail of base. So this is the base, apex, superficial surface. So this is the superficial surface, and we have seen anteromedial surface, posteromedial surface, and this is the anterior border. We have seen posterior border, medial border. Now we will see slight details of the processes of the gland. We have names of some processes like this. One is the facial processes. Extensions of the gland. Facial process, it is a triangular projection. So it will be extending superficial to the masseter along the parotid duct. So it extends towards the face. Then accessory part of the parotid gland and its duct. It is a small part of facial process detached from the main gland, and it is between the zygomatic arch and the parotid duct. So facial and accessory are present over the anterior border. Then pterygoid process. Sometimes pterygoid process are present. It is a triangular process. It extends forward from the deep part of the gland between the mandibular ramus and the medial pterygoid muscle. Otherwise it is in the anteromedial surface. So that is the pterygoid process. Fourth is the glenoid. Glenoid means towards the external acoustic meatus. So it is in the upward direction. Fifth is the pre and post styloid process. So it is deeper, pre and post styloid process. So the gland in front of the groove is known as the styloid process is lodging in a groove in the parotid gland. The part of the gland in front of the groove will be called as pre-styloid process. The part of the gland which is Behind this groove will be called as post-styloid process. So these are some of the processes of the gland that will not be present in all the parotid gland. It may be present in some individuals. So we have to observe what are the processes are present in how many percentage of the population. So there are 5 processes: accessory processes, facial process, accessory parotid gland, pterygoid process, glenoid process, and pre and post styloid process. So we have completed the processes of the parotid gland also. Next heading is the structures passing through the parotid gland. That also we have completed before we started with the presenting parts. So now we have to see the parotid duct. So this is the parotid duct. This is the parotid duct or the Stenson's duct. So this is the parotid duct or the Stenson's duct. Other name parotid duct or the Stenson's duct. It is about 5 centimeter in length and 3 millimeter in width. So this is 5 centimeter in length. So it is formed within the gland by the union of two vertical ducts. By the union of two vertical ducts it is formed. So that is the parotid duct. Emerges through the anterior border of the gland. Passes at first forward on the masseter muscle between the upper buccal and the lower buccal nerves. It is in between. At the anterior border of the masseter, if you think this is the masseter muscle. So if you think this is the masseter muscle, so this Stenson's duct passes over the anterior border of the masseter muscle, turns abruptly medially through the buccal pad of the fat and pierces the buccopharyngeal fascia and buccinator muscle. Finally, the duct passes obliquely between the buccinator and the mucous membrane of the cheek and opens in the vestibule of the mouth opposite to the crown of the upper second molar tooth. This oblique course of the submucosal part of the duct acts as a valve and prevents the inflation of the duct during violent blowing. The surface anatomy of the duct is represented by the middle third of a line. You have to draw one line extending from the lower border of the tragus of the ear to a midpoint between the ala of the nose and red margin of the upper lip. In this line, middle third of a line. So you have to draw a line. If this is the tragus of the ear and this is the between the nose and the red margin of the upper lip, you have to draw one line and middle third of the line will represent. So this is ear, nose and upper lip. So middle third of the line will represent the parotid duct. Blood supply of the parotid duct is artery supplying the duct. What is the artery inside is external carotid artery. So that will give the branches. Nerve supply we have to know in detail. The nerve supply is derived from secretomotor from both parasympathetic and sympathetic. Parasympathetic produces the watery secretion and sympathetic will produce the sticky secretion. So in addition, sympathetic also provides the vasomotor supply to the gland. So now what is the secretomotor pathway of the parotid gland? So secretomotor pathway of the parotid gland, we will see secretomotor pathway. So what is that? What are the two nerves which carry the secretomotor fibers in the head and neck region is facial nerve and glossopharyngeal nerve. So how to remember this, which nerve supplies which glands? What are the glands in the head and neck region? Parotid gland, submandibular gland, sublingual salivary gland, lacrimal gland. So in this, facial nerve supplies all the glands except the parotid gland. So that's the way to remember. So the facial nerve is inside the parotid gland, but it is not concerned with the parotid gland. So what is the nerve will be for the secretomotor for parotid nerve? Glossopharyngeal. So glossopharyngeal is the nerve which is secretomotor to the parotid gland. Glossopharyngeal. The nucleus of glossopharyngeal will be called as inferior salivatory nucleus. That is, inferior salivatory nucleus will be present in the medulla oblongata. Then the superior salivatory nucleus will be present in the pons. So this is the nucleus. Then nerve is the lesser petrosal nerve, and ganglion is the otic ganglia. And postganglionic fibers pass through the auriculotemporal nerve, which is related to the base of the parotid gland. So that is about the secretomotor pathway. If we want to know the development of the parotid gland, it is an ectodermal derivative. It's an ectodermal derivative. You should have learnt in the development of the face between the two processes, mandibular and the maxillary processes. So when they fuse, this cord of cells is buried, then it is canalized, so that will form the parotid duct. Then later will be the gland development. So this completes the development of the parotid gland also. Last is the applied anatomy of the parotid gland. What is the applied anatomy of parotid gland? One, we have already told, parotid gland swellings are painful because the parotidomesenteric fascia is not yielding. So the swellings are painful. Parotid gland swellings are painful because of the parotidomesenteric fascia. Next, parotid abscess is drained by a small incision, so that it will be, we have to avoid injury to the fascia, branches of the facial nerve. Sometimes penetrating wound of the parotid gland damages the two nerves. What are the two nerves? Great auricular nerve, which is the over this superficial surface, and which is carrying the secretomotor fiber is the auriculotemporal nerve. So during that process, the communications between the great auricular nerve and the auriculotemporal nerve, they may grow together, or their fibers will join with each other. So whenever this patient eats, beads of perspiration appear on the skin covering the parotid. Because of the stimulus induced for salivary secretion, induces sweat secretion instead. So great auricular nerve is for sweat secretion. Auriculotemporal is for salivary. But if these two fibers are merging in the injury of the parotid gland, that syndrome is called as the freeze syndrome. And this parotid tumor is also common. This mixed parotid tumor, slow growing, benign, painless tumor, and usually does not involve the facial nerve. So this completes the applied anatomy of the parotid gland. So in this class we started with the boundaries of the parotid region. Then we started with this presenting parts of the parotid gland in detail, structures inside the parotid gland, processes of the parotid gland, then arteries and which supply the parotid gland, and also the surface marking of, and we have seen in detail about the parotid duct and surface marking of the parotid duct, and also the secretomotor pathway of the parotid gland, and we have concluded with the applied anatomy of the parotid gland. So this parotid gland is an important essay for you. You have to draw the diagrams necessary, and you have to write in detail about all this in the answer of the parotid gland. So next class we will see the dural folds and dural sinuses in detail. So those who are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe now, so that you will receive the everyday updates.